It is something out of a science fiction future.
You are off the lock.
Remote control aircraft with as much firepower as a fighter jet. Launched and piloted thousands of miles from the target. Battlefields surveyed by video image, and suspected terrorists eliminated with the press of a button.
Release confirmed.
While the implications for national security are obvious, all that power is being used around the world with devastating effect and increasingly controversial results. September 2011. The man known as Anwar al-Awlaki is located by Central Intelligence in Yemen. A known terrorist with ties to al-Qaeda, al-Awlaki has been placed on CIA's kill list, a list providing presidential authorization for immediate assassination by the CIA. On September 30th, the order is given, and an American drone flies into action. Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen born in New Mexico, is killed. 2 weeks later, his 16-year-old son.
These are devices that are designed to do intrusion into everyday life and privacy remotely from several thousand feet up above.
Drone critics like former U.S. Senate candidate Sam Kephart say with al-Awlaki's death, precedent has been set. American citizens potentially subject to a form of government-sanctioned vigilante justice. Judge, jury, and executioner replaced by joystick and video camera. Due process replaced by instantaneous executive order.
Several people, several departments in the federal government are now able to put somebody, a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil, on some kind of watch list for domestic terrorism. Well, where's the fine line between just listening or actually pushing a button and killing somebody?
And if you think it won't happen here, Kephart and others say plans are already in place. Last year, the Obama administration adopted a sweeping initiative to restructure domestic airspace, realigning commercial flight paths and protocol to make room for new arrivals. The deployment of civilian law enforcement drones overhead, an estimated 30,000 by 2020.
Some of our federal leaders and elected officials feel that drones are a very apt technology. They need to be used at home, so to speak, to protect us from domestic terrorism. And I understand that. I spent 17 years in the high-end security business. But you never get 100% security, and the question then becomes, who's watching the watcher?
We always have to be aware of, we're a very free and open country.
During a recent visit in Rapid City, I asked U.S. Senator John Thune about the nomination of John Brennan, the man known as America's drone czar, to be the new director of the CIA, and resulting concerns over what all appearances suggest will be a drone-heavy U.S. military and intelligence culture. And what critics say are some very dangerous capabilities, no matter whose thumb is on the switch.
Basically, they can go through your phone provider and figure out within about 50 or 60 feet what building you're in or where you physically are, and then they call the drone in and they can listen in or watch you from the drone and know exactly what's going on. And on a really bad day, they can push a button and shoot a little mini missile at you that kills you on the spot.
The steps that we take to try and make sure that we can combat the threat of terrorism in an open society like we have in this country are steps that I think most people agree with. I understand the concerns that civil libertarians raise about some of those things, but we live in a very dangerous world, and there are terrorists who are trying to bring that fight here to the United States, and we have to do everything we can to defend the American people and our interests.
Despite reassurances from Senator Thune and others, grassroots opposition continues to mount. The formation of groups like the Electronic Privacy Information Center and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, both working with the ACLU to raise an alarm about the consequence of drone proliferation and the potential loss of civilian rights.
Whether it's their cameras, whether it is their infrared sensors, whether it's their ability to monitor what you're doing with your cell phone or your television or your house phone or your internet.
Besides their precision lethality, critics like Epic and the EFF say surveillance capability of the new drone armada will be of equal concern. Able to sift and monitor all digital communications, email, internet, and cell phone from multiple city blocks or entire cities. And with an expected convergence with facial biometrics, facial recognition software already used by the FBI, libertarian groups warn an implied end to the Fourth Amendment and the reasonable expectation of privacy.
The reality of it is there's a fusion center that's just now being completed in Utah for the price of $2 billion that's going to be able to take all that drone data and check it against your cell phone bills, your credit card records, your bank statements, etc., how you use your Safeway card, if you will, and what your consumer purchases are. And there literally will be a three-dimensional profile that will be created on most Americans. And I'm very concerned about who has that data and what they're going to do with it.
Well, you know, I think that we always have to be aware of, we're a very free and open country, and civil libertarians remind us of that. But I also think that we've got to do everything we can to defend the country.
In a government statement regarding U.S. drone policy, the American ambassador to Switzerland issued the following. Since our nation's founding, we have committed ourselves to pursuing the highest standards of justice and due process, to protect the inalienable rights of all people as reflected by the U.S. Constitution. We continue to work hard to ensure that our policies and our actions meet those standards and abide by all applicable domestic and international law.
I speak out on behalf of the Constitution.
Critics say Al-Awlaki's death without arrest or trial is proof those rights are already being wiped away. Even greater concern, they say, the definition of enemy is subject to change. Even those on the front lines protesting this very policy considered potential threats.
These drones are extremely sophisticated. Some are armed, some are just listening posts, but I'm not too excited about having a drone that might be circling my house because I'm on someone's political enemies list. It's a great technology, but I really don't think it belongs deployed here domestically in the United States.
Again, if we don't get national security right, the rest is conversation. And so the steps that we take to try and make sure that we can combat the threat of terrorism in an open society like we have in this country are steps that I think most people agree with.
Every American should be concerned about the big eye in the sky. And if they are not paying attention, if they are not awake to what the downside of that is, in terms of their loss of privacy and who has access to this information. If they're not paying attention to that and who's watching the watcher, then I think we're in for a very rough sled.